Okay, well, what I'm going to do today is go through this chart in detail. I'll start off with the worst. It's crazy. Can you actually see, let me just see the top. Can you see where it says free from? I might just make it a little bit smaller so you can see everything. And single page. Can you see that? Is that legible? Might make it a little bit bigger. There we go. Or what happens if I do, that's a bit big, about there is fine. Okay, so competitor analyses for our Miessence protein powder. When I was developing the product, I had lots and lots of people say, but what about this brand and what about that brand, and this brand's really good and I've been taking this, and my customers are asking me about this one, how it compares. So basically I took all of the brands that had crossed my desk and did an analysis, looked at them in depth, and basically created this little chart which shows you at a glance the top criteria that I used to assess them. So for example, if you look way down the bottom right, Herbalife Formula 1, which is their weight loss program product. It failed every it failed every criteria. It had added sugars. So basically, I'm just gonna give you a brief overview. If you're interested, I can do an in-depth. Basically, I can break down each of these added sugars, free from soy and whey, free from added synthetic amino acids, vitamins and minerals, free from natural or artificial flavors and artificial sweeteners, certified organic and complete amino acid profile. I can basically do a talk on each of those just to give you a deeper perspective on why they are important, why they're important criteria to assess in a protein product. But what I'm going to do today is just go through each individual, just give you the overview of each individual product, which you can pretty much see here. So if you have a particular brand that you know of, or have customers or have friends that use, you might be interested in downloading this complete protein competitor analysis and show them. But basically, there were very few that actually are decent products. You'll see them on the left-hand side. The right-hand side, pretty much all bad, which included Plant Fusion, Visalis, V-Shape, Arbonne, No Way, Sports Nutrition, Kivana, Metabolic Shake, Zymogen, Fit Food, Vegan, the Isogenics Isoline Shake, GNC, Spiru Meal, Juice Plus, Melaleuca, Zeal, Advocare, and Herbalife were all pretty horrible. And then the ones on the left-hand side were starting to get a bit better, but still very few of them actually ticked all the boxes when compared to Miessence. So the Shakeology, the Aloha Premium, I'm going to go in detail in the next slide. We'll go into each of them. Shakeology, still wasn't great. Even their vegan version isn't great. Still had added sugars and wasn't certified organic and not a complete amino acid profile. Vega Sport Performance Protein. So there was a broad spectrum of multi-level marketing and health food store and online brands. So Vega Sport had artificial vitamins and minerals and synthetic amino acids. Asante ticked a few boxes, but fell down in the artificial sweeteners and it wasn't certified organic and not a complete amino acid profile. Nutiva hemp protein ticked quite a few boxes, except it had added sugars. Warrior Food was pretty good. Purium Super Meal Love was really good, except it wasn't a complete amino acid profile. Same with Sun Warrior Protein. Many of you would be familiar with the Sun Warrior brand. They're a really good brand, but because it's just rice, it's not a complete amino acid profile. And as you would have learned from last week, with the limiting amino acid brings down the absorbability of all of the proteins in the product. So you can only absorb the protein as much as the weakest link or the limiting amino acid. Garden of Life was pretty good. And I didn't actually taste, it wasn't a critical key factor. And I have heard feedback from some people that Garden of Life doesn't taste the most amazing. And for the Australians in the gang, Amazonia actually is a really good product. It's a complete amino acid profile. It ticked all the boxes. So that's a really good product, the Amazonia Raw. And of course, the Miessence Complete Protein is awesome, but of course it's going to be. Now I'm just going to go through the next page where I'm going into detail for each of the brands. Now I'm just checking, is someone, just want to see the chat. All right. Just going to move the chat box so I can see you if you're saying something. Okay. So let me just go through. I'll see if I can make that a little bit more legible for you. So the Amazonia Raw, as I said, it's a great product, ticks all the boxes. The Garden of Life product, their amino acid profile added up to more than their protein claim on the label. So that's why I had a question mark in there. Something wasn't right. Something's amiss. They didn't do their calculations correctly, or I'm not sure what's going on, but their amino acid profile didn't add up. Oh. Was that me? Did I just annotate something? Anyway, it's exciting. Sun Warrior. So yes, it took a long time, as you can imagine, Sherry. The Sun Warrior. So there are companies that are claiming that rice protein is a complete protein, but they are actually using an incorrect amino acid profile, which when I looked into it, the actual amino acid profile is as defined in the study, amino acid composition of an organic brown rice protein concentrate and isolate compared to soy and whey concentrates and isolates. So so that they're using the incorrect information. So I don't know how or why this happened, but the information that they're using is incorrect. The Purium Super Meal LOV has an unknown essential amino acid profile, so that's why I had a question mark on it. But as it's based on rice protein, it's unlikely to be a complete protein. The Warrior Food by Health Force Nutritionals had no amino acid profile. It's made from rice and hemp that are both deficient in lysine, so it wouldn't be a complete protein. The Nativa hemp protein was 30% sugar, and it wasn't a complete protein. So this is where it's going to be, it's crazy when you see how much sugar and how much fructose these products contain. And then I'm going to go into a little bit of information about why this is so bad. So I'm just giving you the brief overview of who does what in the game. And then I'm going to give you the reasoning why it's so bad. So Asante Organics had no essential amino acid profile. It's not certified organic, and it had added natural and artificial flavors. The Vega Sports Performance Protein wasn't a complete protein, and it had synthetic amino acids, and it wasn't organic. Shakeology Vegan is 20% sugar. It's also not a complete protein, even though it's based on rice and pea. It wasn't done in a scientific way, is all I can say. They didn't do their calculations of the essential amino acids. They could have made a complete protein using rice and pea, but they failed because they didn't do a correct analysis and got the ratios wrong. So it's not just about putting rice and pea together, it's about actually doing it mathematically and making sure that all of the essential amino acids are in the correct ratio that meet that ideal requirement for a complete protein, which is what we went through last week. It's also, the Shakeology is not certified organic. Most of the superfoods on the label claim are listed after salt and cinnamon. So this is the thing that I find bizarre about Shakeology, is that all of their so-called amazing superfoods that they go to great lengths telling us about and where they source them from the Amazon and blah, 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 they're actually on the ingredient list after salt and cinnamon. And you can imagine how little salt and cinnamon there would be in their protein powder. So in terms of efficacy or potency, it would be absolutely minuscule for all of those amazing superfoods that they claim to have on their, they call it a superfood shake, or I don't know. They make a big deal about all the amazing superfoods in it and put diddly squat in it. All right, so it's really just a label, just a label claim. So it's basically, 20% sugar, rice and pea protein, and they're charging a fortune for, what it is. The Aloha Premium Protein, 13% sugar and not a complete protein and not certified organic. Plant Fusion, it contained 6% fructose, which is the bad sugar, the evil sugar. It's also not a complete protein, and they also had added synthetic amino acids, and of course not certified organic. Oh, that's okay. That's all right, Gary. I don't know if I can undo it, but anyway, that looks all right. We can still see it. Visalis V-shape or V-shape contains sucralose, which is an artificial sweetener, which we'll go into shortly. It also contains whey and soy, which are, really, really nasty, which we're going to learn about in a minute, and added synthetic vitamins and minerals, and added artificial flavors and natural flavors. So we're starting to get into the, the real junky, toxic crap now. Arbonne, 20% sugar, added synthetic vitamins and minerals, and synthetic flavors and natural flavors. Now, if we go over to the other side, the No Way had no amino acid profile, so I couldn't assess what it was. It was 10% fructose, because whey in by itself tastes awful, so they've got to add lots of sweeteners to it. Or it also had added vitamins and minerals and amino acids and artificial sweeteners and artificial flavors. So, you know, we're starting to get really nasty here. Kivana Metabolic Shake contains whey, 20% sugar and flavors. Zymogen Fit Food Vegan wasn't a complete protein. It contained 15% sugar with added synthetic amino acids and natural flavors. Isagenix Isoline Shake was 18% fructose, which is like the worst possible the worst possible sweetener you can use. Plus it contains whey and it contains synthetic vitamins and minerals. It contains natural and artificial flavors and artificial sweeteners, and it wasn't certified organic. The GNC Spirumeal contained 24%, a quarter fructose, and there was no essential amino acid profile available, so I couldn't assess it for its complete protein aspect. And it contains soy and synthetic vitamins and minerals and artificial and natural flavors. Juice Plus was 27% sugar and soy and artificial vitamins and minerals and flavors. And the Melaleuca, fructose was the first ingredient. So it's 23% fructose or 23% sugar, plus it contained whey and soy, plus synthetic vitamins and minerals, plus natural and artificial flavors and artificial sweeteners, sucralose and acesulfame potassium. We're going to go through those shortly. Zeal Advanced Formula was 10% sugar and fructose, and it contains whey and soy, the two bad eggs of the protein world, plus synthetic vitamins and minerals and natural and artificial flavors and artificial sweeteners. An Advocare Meal Replacement Shake Vegan, which you'd think would be healthy because it's vegan. Oh no, it had 20% fructose with soy and artificial vitamins and minerals and synthetic amino acids and natural flavors. And lastly, and certainly leastly, was the Herbalife, which was 32% fructose, plus artificial flavors and artificial sweeteners, Splenda, sucralose, plus polydextrose as a bulking agent. So I don't even know how much protein was in that formula, but I don't have I don't have a record here, but it was probably stuff all protein as well, considering it had polydextrose as a bulking agent. So basically it's just a sweet, artificially flavored junk. Anyway, so let me talk to you about why I chose those aspects to assess. Okay, so the sugar issue, the bottom line is fructose makes us fat, we can't stop eating it, and it makes us eat more. Fructose is metabolized by our liver, while glucose, so sugar is 50% fructose and 50% glucose, sucrose. Okay, so the fructose component of sugar is metabolized by our liver, while glucose, the other half of sugar, is actually metabolized in every single cell in our body. So most of it is burned up immediately after you consume sugar. But it's the fructose component, and especially with the high fructose corn syrups or just using straight fructose, that is really, really toxic for us. So instead of every cell burning up glucose, only the liver can metabolize fructose. So the liver actually turns fructose into free fatty acids, and the VLDL, the very low density lipoprotein, which are the damaging, the very low density, the damaging form of cholesterol, and triglycerides, which are all stored as fat. So the fatty acids created during fructose metabolism accumulates as fat in your liver and skeletal muscle tissues, and also all of your internal organs. There's a fat buildup around your internal organs when you eat a lot of fructose. And this causes insulin resistance and non-alcoholic, they actually call it non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. So insulin resistance then progresses into metabolic syndrome and type 2 diabetes. So when we eat glucose, which is if you're going to sweeten anything, use glucose, because our body actually, so with every type of food we eat, like fats, proteins, we have hormones that tell us, sugars, carbohydrates, we have respective corresponding hormones that tell us when we've eaten enough. Okay, except for fructose, there is no off switch. There's no hormone that tells us to stop eating when we eat fructose. So, but when we eat glucose, our bodies registers this and suppresses ghrelin, which is our hunger hormone, and stimulates leptin, which is our we're full hormone, which tells our body to stop eating. But yeah, this doesn't happen with fructose. Worse still, fructose actually raises the levels of the hormone ghrelin, which is our hunger hormone. So you can eat as much fructose as you want, and you never feel satiated. You feel more hungry. So, and worse still, the fructose that we eat doesn't get burnt up by our cells. It gets converted in our liver. That's the only thing that the liver can only metabolize fructose, and a good chunk of the fructose that we eat gets stored as fat. Okay, so when you eat 120 calories of glucose, for example, less than 1 calorie is stored as fat. But if you eat 120 calories of fructose, a third of the calories you have eaten will be stored as fat. So basically, consuming fructose is essentially consuming fat and creating fat in your body. So why any of these, I don't understand what's going on in the minds of these formulators who create meal supplements or protein supplements and use fructose as the sweetener. Besides the fact that it's extremely cheap and readily available it's high fructose corn syrup, it's genetically modified, it's probably cheap. It's probably the cheap option. So yeah, just it's bizarre. And worse still, fructose makes us sick. More and more research is being done on the effects of fructose on our bodies. A number of studies have shown that fructose inhibits our immunity, messes with our fertility, speeds up the aging process, is linked to dementia, causes an acidic digestive tract, it causes indigestion and malabsorption, and it can cause a rapid rise in adrenaline, as well as hyperactivity, anxiety, and a loss of concentration. So these are just a few of the studies that are happening at the moment around fructose and why it's really, really bad for you. So the experts say it takes about 6 weeks to kick a sugar addiction. And if you didn't know, sugar is actually more addictive than cocaine. There was a study done that rats were able to choose mutually exclusively between sugar water and intravenous cocaine. Okay, so they had a choice between sugar water and cocaine, a highly addictive drug, and 94% of the rats preferred sugar. What does that tell you? Just how addictive this stuff is. So what else? Yeah. that's pretty much. I mean, I could do a whole Fridays with Narelle on sugar and fructose. If you want me to do that, I'm more than happy to, and go through all the gory details as to why sugar is so bad. But just to give you a bit more information about the sugars in your daily life. So sugar, sucrose, is 50% fructose and 50% glucose. High fructose corn syrup is 55% fructose and 45% glucose, but it can be up to 90% fructose. And nearly all of the corn that high fructose corn syrup is created from is genetically modified. Then there's sucralose, agave syrup. Okay, I'm going to go through the artificial sweeteners shortly, but the agave syrup is not a healthy option, folks. It is falsely advertised as raw and natural and healthy, and it is highly processed and usually about 80% fructose. So the end product doesn't even remotely resemble the original agave plant, and it's not a healthy option. Honey is about 53% fructose, but it is completely natural and in its raw form has many health benefits. So it's okay to use in moderation, but just be aware that it is over 50% fructose. And stevia, which is stevia, and the lohan fruit, or the lohan guo, which is what we use, the monk fruit. So stevia is a very sweet herb derived from the leaf of the South American stevia plant, which is completely safe in its natural form. And the monk fruit is a sweetener derived from the Chinese monk fruit, which is non-caloric, no fructose, no sucrose, a non-caloric sweetener that doesn't affect your blood sugar. Now, just want to talk about soy and whey. Okay, so this is why I crossed them off, why they are bad, basically, while they're not ideal to have in your proteins. So here's a summary of soy's most glaring problems. It's genetically modified. It increases allergies. It destroys your gut bacteria, and it's loaded with toxic Roundup. It contains anti-nutrients which interfere with enzymes needed to digest protein. It contains hemagglutinin, which is a clot-promoting substance that causes your red blood cells to clump together. And these clumped red blood cells are unable to properly absorb and distribute oxygen to your tissues. So that's not a good thing. Soy also contains goitrogens. Goitrogens are substances that block the synthesis of thyroid hormones and interfere with iodine metabolism, thereby interfering with your thyroid function. So not a good aspect of soy. Soy also contains phytates that prevent the absorption of certain minerals, including calcium, magnesium, iron, and zinc, which is very problematic for vegetarians because we need lots of those minerals. and if you're using soy as your vegetarian source of protein, it's going to be blocking the absorption of those minerals, which is not good. Soy also contains phytoestrogens, which are known to disrupt endocrine function and may cause infertility and may promote breast cancer in women. Soy also has toxic levels of aluminium and manganese because soybeans are processed by acid washing in aluminium tanks, which can leach high levels of aluminium into the final soy product. So you guys know, definitely, if you have aluminium cooking pans at home, never cook them with acidic foods like tomato sauce or anything like that, because the high acid foods leach the aluminium into the food. So that's exactly what these guys are doing when they're processing soy. They're using aluminium tanks and acid washing them. So all of the aluminium is leaching into the final soy product. And in terms of manganese, soy formula has up to 80 times higher manganese that is found in human breast milk. So soy infant formula is definitely no-go. Definitely 100% do not use soy infant formula. Plus, more bad news about soy. 91% of the soy grown in the world is genetically modified. And disturbingly, the only published human feeding study on GM foods ever conducted verified that the gene inserted into GM soy transfers into the DNA of our gut bacteria and continues to function. So this means that years after you stop eating GM soy, you may still have a potentially allergenic, toxic protein continuously being produced in your intestines that has never been a part of human history, human evolution. So yeah, bad stuff. Now in terms of whey, most whey proteins are processed from ultra pasteurized milk, and many whey proteins are exposed to acid during processing. Heat and acid denatures protein and makes it insoluble in water. So manufacturers of whey protein supplements add chemical flavors and genetically modified soy lecithin to restore flavor and solubility in water. And they also use artificial sweeteners like aspartame and sucralose, which are toxic in their own right, but we'll go going into that shortly. So whey protein, if it's chronically consumed, such as in the case of bodybuilders or athletes, or if you're taking it on a regular basis, like a daily basis, it can acidify your body and lead to metabolic acidosis, with consequences that include wasting of muscle and bone tissues, increased vulnerability to degenerative diseases. So, and additionally, once the fat has been removed from the whey protein isolate, you lose some of the most important components of its beneficial properties, such as the phospholipids, the phosphatidylserine, all of the fat-soluble nutrients. When you remove the fat from the whey, you lose all of those benefits, and all of the immunoglobulins, the IgG immunoglobulins, which are excellent source of glutamine and glutamylcysteine, are also bound to the fat molecule in whey. So they're therefore lost in the processing of whey isolates. So the bottom line is, don't use whey isolates. If you wanted to, if you can handle whey, like if you can handle the lactose and you don't mind it being an animal product, use the whole whey protein. Don't use the whey isolate. Have the complete whey protein with all the fats in it as well. Now, why are added vitamins and minerals such a bad thing? Okay, why did I give them a big red cross if they had vitamins and minerals? Basically, more than 95% of the vitamins and minerals and antioxidants that you buy at the health food store, and close to 100% of those sold in other stores, are now made by the same pharmaceutical and chemical companies who supply them to every other, there's very few actual manufacturers of vitamins and minerals in the world today. The same few pharmaceutical companies and chemical companies do make them and supply everyone. But that's not a bad thing. But what is a bad thing is that these vitamins and minerals are not what we would expect from a whole food source. They're not a true and complete vitamin or mineral as would be supplied by a good organically grown whole food, but are in fact chemical synthetics made from such things as coal tar, petroleum products, animal byproducts, waste and fecal matter, ground up rocks, stones, shells, and metal. Okay, so they are nothing that we actually want to be eating. They're not from foods, they're not from whole foods. They are isolated synthetic nutrients made from all manner of chemicals and rocks and stones and metals and fecal matter and human waste. It's disgusting. So isolated vitamins can't always be used by the body. So they're either stored until you can obtain or create the nutrients required to use them, like the cofactors that you actually need to use them effectively, or they're excreted. So, but synthetic vitamins are actually devoid of the necessary trace minerals and must use the body's own mineral reserves, which may lead to a dangerous mineral deficiency. Okay, so this is the problem. This is the big deal with taking synthetics. It is a problem, but some people say, well, how come some people report feeling better when they first take them? So what happens is if a person has enough body reserves of the missing parts of a particular vitamin, when combined with the vitamin isolate from the synthetic, they will experience some initial relief. Okay, but as soon as those reserves are used up, the synthetic vitamin will no longer work. Okay, do you understand what I'm trying to say? Because they're not provided in whole form, your body has some, some missing parts, some of the missing parts that are needed to synthesize the vitamins. So as soon as those synthetic vitamins use up your store, those vitamins won't work anymore. Your symptoms will return, and the person will now experience the unpleasant effects of vitamin imbalance and deficiency. So, natural and artificial flavors. Let me just go through why these got a big red cross. Bottom line, natural and artificial flavors aren't really that different, and natural flavors can actually contain synthetic chemicals. Flavors are very complex mixtures that can comprise of more than 100 different chemicals. The main difference between a natural and an artificial flavor is the origin of the flavor chemicals. Natural flavors must be derived from plants or animal materials, and artificial flavors are synthesized wholly in the laboratory. But the actual chemicals in these two kinds of flavors may be exactly the same. The chemical structure of the individual molecules are actually indistinguishable. Now let's talk about artificial sweeteners and why products that use those got a big red cross. So I'm just going to go through a couple of different common ones. Sucralose, which is Splenda. Despite its marketing slogan, made from sugar, so it tastes like sugar, Splenda is not sugar. It is a chlorinated artificial sweetener in line with aspartame and saccharin, and with detrimental health effects to match. The human body is very good at detoxifying itself from certain substances, but it's not the case with organochlorine compounds, which are organic compounds that have been chlorinated. So this is what Splenda is. It's an organochlorine compound. It's a natural compound that is being chlorinated. Another organochlorine compound, dioxin, is 300,000 times more carcinogenic than DDT, which is an insecticide that was banned 30, 40 years ago because of its toxicity. So according to the Sucralose Toxicity Information Center, the absorbed sucralose and its metabolites concentrate in the liver, kidney, and gastrointestinal tract. One study on sucralose showed an increase in glycosylated hemoglobin, meaning damage to the oxygen-carrying part of the red blood cell. That's not a good thing. You don't want damage to the oxygen-carrying part of your red blood cells. Okay, definitely sucralose is a bad sweetener, a bad artificial sweetener. And then there's ACE-K, or acesulfame potassium, or acesulfame K, and it contains the carcinogen methylene chloride. Long-term exposure to methylene chloride can cause headaches, depression, nausea, mental confusion, liver effects, kidney effects, visual disturbances, and cancer in humans. Also, of all the artificial sweeteners, acesulfame K has undergone the least scientific scrutiny. Early studies show a link to multiple cancer developments in lab animals, and humans have 99% the same DNA as the lab mice and rats tested. Aspartame, which is the famous NutraSweet or Equal or Spoonful or Equal Measure. Aspartame, this is from Dr. McCullough, by far the most dangerous substance added to most foods today. Okay. Aspartame accounts for over 75% of the adverse reactions to food additives reported to the FDA. Most of these reactions are very serious, including seizures and death. A few of the 90 different documented symptoms listed in the report as part of the aspartame dangers are headaches, dizziness, seizures, muscle spasm, weight gain, rashes, irritability, tachycardia, insomnia, heart palpitations, breathing difficulties, tinnitus, vertigo, anxiety attacks, memory loss, nausea, depression, vision problems, slurred speech, joint pain. Okay, does this sound like something that you really want to be having in a healthy protein shake? No. So according to researchers and physicians studying the adverse effects of aspartame, the following chronic illnesses can be triggered or worsened by ingesting aspartame: brain tumors, multiple sclerosis, epilepsy, chronic fatigue, Alzheimer's, diabetes, lymphoma, and they actually have mental retardation as one of them. There was also a study that found women drinking 2 diet sodas per day are 50% more likely to die from heart-related disease. Okay, so this is one of the largest studies of its kind, which included nearly 60,000 postmenopausal women who were followed for about 10 years, found that drinking just 2 diet drinks a day dramatically increased their risk of an early death from heart disease. So they found that compared to women who never or rarely consume diet drinks, those who consume 2 or more a day are 30% more likely to have a cardiovascular event, which is a heart attack or a stroke, and 50% more likely to die from related disease. And an association persisted even after the researchers adjusted the data to account for demographic characteristics and other cardiovascular risk factors, including BMI, body mass index, smoking, hormone therapy use, physical activity, energy intake, salt intake, diabetes, hypertension, high cholesterol, and sugar-sweetened beverage intake. So they evened out all of those factors, right? When they removed even all of those factors, still the women were 50%. So it had nothing to do with whether they smoked, whether they had diabetes, whether they had lots of salt, whether they were physically active. It had nothing to do with that, only to do with drinking 2 Diet Cokes a day or diet sodas a day. So what happens with aspartame is that actually the byproduct of aspartame in the body, it produces methanol. Okay, methanol cannot be broken down, or it can't be converted into a happy substance in the body. It actually breaks down into formaldehyde. Okay, formaldehyde is a deadly neurotoxin. Okay, so basically the EPA assessment of methanol states that it is considered a cumulative poison due to the low rate of excretion once it is absorbed. In the body, methanol is oxidized into formaldehyde. So they recommend a limit of consumption of 7.8 milligrams per day. 1 liter of an aspartame, an aspartame sweetened beverage contains about 56 milligrams of methanol. Okay, so 1 liter contains 8 times the recommended limited consumption. So heavy users of aspartame calorie-containing products consume as much as 250 milligrams of methanol a day, or 32 times the EPA limit. So methanol is a toxin that destroys the myelin tissue in your body, which is the insulating material around your nerves that allows nerve signals to travel properly. So once injured, you can have what's called a demyelinating symptoms that are commonly seen in diseases like multiple sclerosis, MS, and also migraines and visual field disruptions. So there's all sorts of horrible side effects of basically methanol poisoning. So symptoms from methanol poisoning include headaches, ear buzzing, dizziness, nausea, gastrointestinal disturbances, weakness, vertigo, chills, memory lapses, numbness, and shooting pains in the extremities, behavioral disturbances, and neuritis. The most well-known problems from methanol poisoning are vision problems, including misty vision, progressive contraction, blurring of vision, all sorts of vision problems, and blindness. So formaldehyde, which is what methanol is broken down to in the body, is a known carcinogen, and it causes retinal damage, eye damage. It also interferes with DNA replication and causes birth defects. Okay, so not surprisingly, the most comprehensive and longest human study looking at aspartame toxicity found an association between aspartame consumption and non-Hodgkin's lymphoma and leukemia. So the myth, or the major deceptions around artificial sweeteners like aspartame is that they are meant to help you lose weight because you're avoiding sugar. This is a myth. Research has shown that artificial sweeteners actually stimulate your appetite, increase carbohydrate cravings, and stimulate fat storage and weight gain. In fact, diet drinks, which are well-known sources of artificial sweeteners, may actually double your risk of obesity. So that is the lowdown on why I gave these competitors the big heave-ho. All right, let me just go back. So all of those, I highly recommend you download this from the back end and give it to your friends who are using some of these products. And hang on, I can just see. Question, if you have a chance. Xylitol, Sherry, I'm not a fan. I know some people say it's really great. It's still a synthetic sugar alcohol. Actually, let me see if I have some information about the sugar alcohols. I think I can probably put something together. I don't think I have it in my notes. Okay, so yeah, the only issue, so there's xylitol, glycerol, sorbitol, maltolol, mannitol, and erythritol. They're called sugar alcohols, but they're neither sugar nor alcohol. They are incompletely absorbed from your small intestine for the most part, so they provide fewer calories than sugar, but they can cause problems with digestive problems, with bloating, diarrhea, flatulence. So that's the only bit of information that I have about xylitol. But yeah, it's not natural. It's not natural. It's synthetic, and for me, the jury's out. I'd rather err on the side of caution. Yes. Okay, Dartsay. Well, how about I do a webinar on synthetic vitamins and minerals? Okay, so that's going to be the fecal matter thing will be a webinar on synthetic vitamins and minerals. Yeah, cool. Okay, I will do that next time. So just letting you know, I'm heading overseas this weekend. So what's going on? I'm actually on a plane next Friday on my way home from China. So next Friday there won't be a Fridays with Narelle, but we will be back in full swing on the 1st of June. So in 2 weeks, I'll do another session, and I'll do it on synthetic vitamins and minerals and fecal matter. And I'll see if I can find out some fecal matter and probiotic information. Okay, thanks, Dartse. Okay, thank you everyone for being on the call. Oh yeah, are there any questions? My pleasure. Yeah, so download this. There's heaps of information in the back end. And yeah, synthetic vitamins and minerals coming up next Friday with Narelle. Not next Friday, but the week after. Okay, so thanks everyone for being on the call, and I'll see you in a fortnight. Okay, bye-bye.